Okay.
Okay, so my battery says it's below 20%, so hopefully we get all this in. So this one is a podcast style from Serious Play. I am here with a student named, I'll just call him Chris. And I'm here with another speaker, and I'll just call him Bob. So if I mess up your names, I do apologize. But the session was on, they erased it. Tell
How?
me the title. Tell me
Yeah.
the title of your
The title of the session is How to Use GTA style open world gameplay mechanics to teach history.
Yes. And like I was telling Bob, is I was super excited to really come and really listen to this because number one, I'll be honest with you. I have never played GTA. Of course, I'm familiar with it, but the new GTA is coming out.
Yeah.
And so I'm actually going to purchase that one because there's already controversy before the game is even being played. For example, I think they wanted to change I don't know if she's Latina or African American. They wanted to change that person to a white character. It's so much stuff going on. I digress. I want to know the reason why I want to get with you is because I want to hear some things that may have not been said about your presentation that you really want to share, but really couldn't. I'm not saying controversy wise, because you only had 30 minutes to speak. So, what I want to know is when you first started this project, said, I'm going to do, and I'm just saying it in your words, not mine, I'm going to do a GTA project over history. What was that conversation like amongst your peers? And then, Chris, I'm going to go to you when you said, I'm going to be a part of this. I want to hear the positive. I want to hear even the not so positives. What was that like?
Do you want Chris to talk first?
You can, Bob. You can talk first.
Okay. Yeah. So the project was inspired by a lot of things. So it's not like just one time. Wow, we got to do this. So as I mentioned, we played a lot of GTA's, and there were a lot of gamers and professional developers in our team, and we're familiar with the gameplay mechanics. We're also history lovers, so we read history books, we read novels, we watched movies and documentaries. Also, because some of the teachers and students in our team, they also know how history is taught in classrooms. So all things come together, and it's like little things all come together, and one day we realize that, wow, we can do a project that combines all these inspirations all together. GTA, novels and documentaries, movies, and high school classroom materials. And so it's a project that inspired by so many things.
Yeah. So what were some of the reactions? I know you said a little bit, but I'm gonna keep it real kind of person. What was some of the reactions when you told people, I'm going to do this?
Yeah, as I mentioned, it's a very special project, unlike anything out there. And it uses GTA gameplay mechanics to try to teach difficult history. And so when we told people about it, their response was, wow, how could you do that? And making games of controversial topics, dealing with difficult things. Can video game do that? They have doubt. So that's the most common question. Yeah. Can video game do that? Can video game tell difficult stories about history?
So Chris, what about you? Like when you said you were a senior, so you're about to step out into that real world. What was it like when you were telling people, I'm going to do this?
I think they were definitely very surprised. It's pretty unusual compared to many of the things that my other classmates are working on. But they were definitely interested in how it would play out, because I think one of my main inspirations was like, over the past couple of years I've taken many history classes, but I feel like they're all taught like largely the same way with the same curriculum, especially public school curriculum, and in many cases it's not very engaging with myself, many of my friends in history classes. It's not the most exciting, we didn't think like not the best way to teach history. So I thought that this would be an interesting venture to see, especially when we test in the classrooms, like how could this compare to that? How could this improve that? It could be very beneficial to students in schools, especially like as opposed to this like rigid curriculum that I don't think has changed much in the past couple of years.
Wow. And so one of the things that really resonated with me too was you had a slide up that showed, and it really clicked with me, especially being a person of color. Like this is when you were saying we're gonna do this for like Return GTA style. You said, well, look, here's a movie over here that does this, whether it's funny or controversial. That's what I took out of it. Whether it's funny or controversial, here's a movie over here that's doing this. Here are also books. Here are also other things that we've already done this. And I'm not trying to prove my words, not yours, but I'm not trying to prove my point, but there's a media art out there that's already been doing this. I'm even thinking from my perspective when we talk about things like, well, let's be honest, like slavery, things like that, like it wasn't pretty. Those stories aren't pretty, but they need to be told. And they've been told in these other platforms. I think the way we look at games is we look at it as very one-dimensional. And for you, Chris, right? Chris, you're coming out of it's. What I hear from you is like, okay, well, I'm already in it. I'm about to leave, and history right now, and my words, not yours. History is boring. I'm not engaged. It's dying, but I want to know more about my people. I want to know more about my culture, and I'm into this, not in that way, but history can be violent. So I really appreciated that perspective. What resonated also with me was you get to be the hero or the villain. I want you to expand on that. What made you decide that I'm going to be a hero or a villain? What, based off of what you said today, what made you decide we're going to be a hero or a villain?
Yeah, I think the idea came to us because there are already so many games about heroes. Okay. You know, a lot of games you play as a hero, and very few games let you play as a villain because it's risky and it's there's so many ethical challenges. Mm-hmm. So we think that in our case, in this part of history, because a lot of teenagers they were villains during that period of time, but later on, surprisingly, they become victims too.
Right.
And so our thinking was like, hey, we let players, if they want to learn history, and we want them to experience the history from the eyes of someone of their own age, and they see what average kid did during that time period. Mm-hmm. It will trigger questions like, how could a normal kid be like this? What turned them into a monster? And we hope that this experience will help them reflect and ask difficult questions and learn from those questions.
Yeah, and I know you want to say something. The term villain, and when I heard that, like, well, people don't understand what the actual word. There's a difference between evil and villain. When I heard this, I'm like, well, if you're looking at it from the villain's perspective, sometimes they're thrust in and they don't have a choice. And they have to do these horrendous things because if not, something is going to happen to them. So at that time, or as I'm looking at it, it's like, well, it's either me or you, and I'm choosing me. So I have to go to this hard route of being a villain. A villain can be redeemed. And so I think when I looked at him, like, I get it. I see the violence in it, but I see that as a person, that villain is also a victim because they don't have a choice. What did you expand on that, Chris? I don't know what you want to add to that, but
yeah,
I know you're ready to talk.
So in one of the games that we researched before this, Gerda, covering the Holocaust, you play as like a civilian that gets affected by it.
Okay.
So you learn that perspective. You know what they go through. You know why they do the things that they do. But the perspective you don't see is like the perpetrator, like the villain, you could say. Like you don't learn like their motivations, like directly from their perspective. You don't get to play from their perspective. You only see what they're doing to you as a victim. So I think that was another thing that we were trying to go for with this game, was the opposite effect.
Yeah, and I agree. It doesn't mean that you're pro or pro villain. It's like I'm just telling the story.
Yeah. Also, I want to add another point. So these teenagers, they don't have a choice because they don't know there's another route. They were manufactured in the society. There's only one way. There's only one route. There's only one choice. So they were not given any choice. They don't even realize there's another choice. It will be until after the Cultural Revolution, people started to realize, wow, the world, the society didn't need to be this way.
Right.
There's another way.
And they're doing basically what they're taught. I'm not saying that's a good or bad thing, but it's just like, if you're raised by your parents, you're taught a certain way until you get old enough to go, okay, there's another world out there. Here's this perspective. As a parent myself, I don't know if that's going. As a parent myself, I try to teach my kids. They're in their 20s. I try to teach them right from wrong as much as I can, but I also have to understand that they have their own beliefs, and when they get out in that world, those are going to be developed. I hope they take some of the nuggets. I try not to be a negative person, but like I said, I really enjoyed that perspective. For you, sir, that's going out into the real world, like, you're leaving a huge mark. For those educators out there, I mean, for you, and again, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but you were saying, like, I'm not engaged. This history is, I want to know my history, but it's not engaged anymore. It's not relevant to me. So have you talked to other teachers who are not history saying that this is what I'm doing and here's why? And have they had any reactions to this?
I might be reaching out to other teachers. At this moment, I've reached out to some history teachers, but that's about it. Discussing like potential options for the game, but I haven't looked into like other things.
Well,
they're also very supportive.
Good.
So the history teachers we talked with, and they're going to help us in many ways.
What about your parents? First off, do your parents know anything about Grand Theft Auto?
Yeah.
Okay. What was it like when you told your parents, I'm going to do this? How old are you? 16? I mean, 17? 18?
17.
So 17 years old. I don't know if you started this at 16 or not. Coming in and you tell, hey, mom, dad, I'm going to do this. Thoughts? Like, what did they say?
They were pretty intrigued because of course they would want me to know more about like Chinese history, and they thought that this would be a pretty good means to learn more about it, but to also make something out of it instead of just like learning it through like a book, instead like making a project out of it and like spreading the message to more people. I think they like that a lot.
So this question to both of you too, because I'll just be honest, like I didn't see, maybe because it was in the presentation, it wasn't in the presentation, but like, I know there's horror and graphics and violence when it comes to this type of history. Is that in your game? Because history, there's a lot of very violent, and I'll say this first, I'm supportive of it, but there's a lot of very violent, like, oh my God, these things actually happen. Is that going to be in your game, or is it more like we're still going this route, but we're going to show like some of the horrific stuff? Like, where do you sit with that?
Yeah, as we're building missions, and the missions will be more and more difficult, more and more tricky, because in the early missions, you're introduced into this world in this time period. You do something. Later missions, you may see violence, you may experience violence. So, as I mentioned in my presentation, we have to test it to see people's response, to see young people's response, and we'll make adjustment. And because this is definitely a violent time period that we are depicting, and you cannot avoid it.
You can't.
Yeah, you cannot avoid it. So it's the matter is what is the best way to show it and let people experience it?
Have people, because you're doing it from your background, from your culture, have others been like, because for me, I'm like, what does that look like from my lens? If I want to talk about my perspective as a Black man, in that perspective, have others come up to you and said, maybe not ask you, can you do one for us, but are they intrigued or have they talked to you about, well, what does this look like have you thought about like what this looks like as a Native American, or how can I do this as a Black person, or how can I do this as a Latina? Have people come up to you and talk to you about that?
Not yet, because we're still in the early stage of prototyping. So the people who have seen it, they're very limited. And I think later on we'll experience that question. And right now we're focusing on a certain time period in Chinese history.
Absolutely.
And we're testing our game with a lot of ABC kids to see their response, because they were born here in the United States, and but some of them are very interested in Chinese history and they want to learn from the past. And we'll see their response first, and then we'll open it up to see, what people's response from around the world, like people in the United States, people in Europe, people in Southeast Asia. What do they view this time period, and then what they think about it?
Well, I will tell you, when I saw your presentation, it got me really thinking, like, what would this look like from my lens? And I'm actually very excited to even go through and play something like this myself, to understand another culture in an interactive and fun way. So I thank you very much for taking the time to speak with me. I'm looking forward to seeing how this develops. I would love to follow you to see how this goes. Your perspective, I know I don't know what it's going to be like for you, Chris, as you graduate. You're a senior this year, right? So you got a whole year. I can't wait to see what that looks like, and I can't wait to see how you continue to do this as you go to higher ed or wherever else you want to go to. So, guys, thank you so much for this.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.